Hello, this is Dr. Nuke again. Today we'll be discussing warp drive and also an idea that I came up with for the structure of space-time in the multiverse and applications of that idea. First of all, warp drive. There is serious work being done on warp drive now. It's the so-called Alcubierre warp drive, named after the person who thought of it, named a scientist named Miguel Alcubierre. The way it works is that a spacecraft has a warp field generated and around it, and the spacecraft is in a warp bubble. The warp bubble itself moves through space, carrying the spacecraft with it. The warp bubble can move faster than light without violating Einstein's speed limit, because Einstein's theory allows for space to move with respect to space faster than light. It just says that a material object cannot be accelerated to light speed or beyond. But there's a loophole there, because the spacecraft is motionless inside the warp bubble. So the ship is able to effectively travel faster than light without actually breaking this speed limit. Work is being done, but we're very far off from building a warp drive spacecraft at this time. I would give it another couple hundred years maybe, although who knows, if we're lucky, maybe sooner. But I have another idea. What if all points in space-time throughout the multiverse were interconnected, each point connected with every other point in the multiverse of space-time? And what if there was what if the principle of quantum non-locality applied, such that you could quantum jump from any one location to any other location instantaneously? What if then you could build a craft of some sort that could have all its points in space-time quantum jump to another set of points in space-time somewhere else, allowing for instantaneous travel from point A to point B without going through the space in between? This is not the same thing quite as hyperdrive, and it's not the same thing as warp drive. We are very, very, very far off from that, and of course it is only speculation at this point. Maybe quantum computers will have something to do with making it work. Right now, quantum computing is in its infancy. But what if in the future it were possible to build a quantum computer with 1 trillion qubits in it, or even more? Maybe it could handle the calculations that would be necessary to make the ship able to jump. And what about the mathematics involved? The mathematics likely would be intractable for ordinary computers, but maybe 1 trillion qubit quantum computer would be able to handle the math. I would suspect the math might be something on the order of nested matrices of many dimensions, not just ordinary ordinary two-dimensional matrices where you have two-dimensional arrays of numbers, but actual like you can have three-dimensional arrays of numbers, four-dimensional arrays of numbers, 100-dimensional arrays of numbers. And what if you had nested matrices, where you had matrices themselves being elements of higher order matrices, which which themselves are elements in yet higher order matrices, and so on. I would advocate for research, theoretical research, to be done along those lines to see if it would bear any fruition with fundamental theoretical physics. Hopefully someday we'll be able to travel faster than light to other star systems. Imagine if you could get to Alpha Centauri in a month instead of 50 years. I read a book called Centauri Dreams. The book is about various ways to go 1/10 light speed to get to the nearer stars. But even then, it would take almost 50 years to get to Alpha Centauri. But if you could get there in a month, let's say, that would be a big improvement. And even if you couldn't go faster than light, even if your warp drive was only 1/100th of light speed, that would still open up the solar system, the outer solar system, even to human exploration and colonization. Well, things to think about. Well, that concludes my discussion today. Have a good day. It's coming. Go. Hello, this is Dr. Nuke. Today we'll be discussing retro gaming. When I was in high school, I think it was 1982, I got my mother got me a Atari toy computer / game console. It had a keyboard on it, but it didn't have keys that you could push. It was flat. It was a flat surface, and you just pushed where the letters were written on the surface. It didn't have movable keys. And I had 3 cartridges for it. The way it worked is you would stick a cartridge in and play a game, and then pull the cartridge out and stick another cartridge in to play another game. I only had 3 cartridges with that computer / console. I had a basic language compiler cartridge to program in BASIC, an old computer language, an old computer programming language. I had the game Missile Command on a cartridge, and I had the game Pac-Man on a cartridge. So I played Pac-Man and Missile Command quite a bit on that device, and there were a few times where I used the BASIC compiler to do very primitive programs. The device was a single unit. It had a peripheral that you could get for it, which I actually had, but I was never able to make it work. It was a tape deck on which to record programs that you wrote with the BASIC compiler. It took regular audio cassette tapes, which were in wide use back then. And even today, I still have a dual cassette deck on my stereo and tapes, and I even have a bunch of blank tapes even still in this day. But yeah, I used to play Missile Command. I wasn't all that good at those games, either that I played on my console, or there was a arcade in the town I lived in. And I walked down there and played games there as well. Yeah, I would go there with a roll of quarters and use up the whole roll of quarters playing games. Yeah. So, of course, if I had my way, I would have had more cartridges for my console, but of course they cost money, and I had only limited money, so I wasn't able to buy more cartridges. There are other games that I really like. Space Invaders, for example. That's one of the early games. One of these days I'll do a video of me playing Pong, which is a really old game. And then there's another game called Xevious that I enjoyed. I remember playing that when I was in college. There's other games that I have encountered that I've liked as well. And I do plan on doing videos of video capture of gameplay of these old retro games. That'll come later. Actual gameplay videos. And I'll get as many of those old video games as I can to play on this YouTube channel. Well, until next time, have a good